Hi, my name's Arman, and you're listening to Tiny Synths and Friends. Let's explore the curious world of tabletop music devices designed by individuals with a deep desire to create something personal. In this episode, I'll be talking with Arman from Kasser Synths in Santander, Spain, creator of the DAFM series of tabletop FM synthesizers that cover a variety of 1980s console, PC, and arcade sounds. Let's take a listen. Hello, Abram. Welcome to the show. I'd like to start by asking you about when you became interested in music.
This is a tough question. I have realized that all the people that you have, even you and the people that you have interviewing, are coming from musical backgrounds. But I have zero musical background. So I'm completely ignorant in music. I have tried to study in the last years. And when I say study, I mean theory, music theory, like chords, harmonies, but I have never been in the music school. I wanted to do it, but not so strongly to convince my parents. So I spent my time in other things.
Did you ever play a musical instrument as a child?
Never.
Wow.
So I spent all the time like in two things, more or less. One was the chemistry laboratory, and the other one was electrical laboratory. I have an older brother that he's 4 years older than me. So he was like you say now, we could say now a maker or a do-it-yourselfer, you know. He is the type of guy that was able to tear down an old TV, take all this big condenser, make like a row of 10 of them, and try to make a big fire in our home. It's this kind of guy.
Oh, that I am scared. Okay.
But I mean, I'm talking about 8 years old, 10 years old, burning sulfur, add some water, get some sulfuric acid or any other acid. So like really crazy scientist with 10 years old. And then when I was not burning the house, I was also making like electrical circuits, but very rudimentary. Like there was like kids to make these kind of circuits. You have like 50 circuits to do. And one of them is make your own FM radio, make your own oscillator that plays like birds. You can hear the birds singing.
I had one of those. It was this big box that had components connected with wires and springs.
Yes. That was great. So I spent a lot of time with that. Until I knew the video games and the computers. And then my head exploded.
What was your first game console?
Atari 2600.
Amazing.
I like it because it was like from nothing to this. But then some years later, I met the Sega Master Systems and was like from the night to the day. Like, wow, colors, pixel art, 8-bit, 80s console, Sega Master System. Wow, great. The music started to make sense. Not only just random noises like in the Atari was unbelievable. And then my dream always to have was the Sega Mega Drive. Here is Mega Drive. I think in US was the Sega Genesis. But here in Europe it was called the Mega Drive.
What were some of your favorite games as a child?
Wow, I spent a lot of time with Sonic games. I was like obsessed with Sonic. Completely obsessed. And I like I mentioned, I also became obsessed with the Sega Mega Drive because I didn't have it. I couldn't buy it, but one of my friends of the school and also neighbor have it. And he was like, I hate you because you have it, I don't have it. It was like really an obsession to have it. I used to rent the games. I didn't buy them, but I buy only 5 games completely. I mean, my collection in the Master System was like a strange collection. It was like Sonic Chaos. Gauntlet was great, but we didn't understand it at home. It was like, it never ends. It never ends. We play and play, but never ends. Where do we go? What do we have to do?
It ends. You just have like 100 levels and you fall through those black hole exits and
Yeah,
just keep
yeah.
going. And
We didn't have the patience. The Shadow of the Beast. Shadow of the Beast was like the torture, I mean, completely like the Dark Souls of now, at that time. And I finished it. And I'm quite happy to do it. From 8 years old to 12 years old was like Master System. Waiting to the Friday, going to the rental store, taking the game, running to home, play until the Monday, Sunday in the evening. Around, you have to stop. No, ma'am, not yet. I have to get it back tomorrow.
yeah, there was some pressure there at the end when it was like it had to go back the next day. You had to really put that extra effort in.
Exactly.
At some point, as an adult, you started to design synthesizers based around these Yamaha chips from early game consoles and arcade systems. How did that come about? How did you just decide that as an adult, many years later?
I studied chemical engineering. I had my chemistry lab. So somehow in my head was like, I want to become a scientist. I want to be a chemist. I want to mix everything and produce new things and discover new elements. This was like my dream from always. But somehow the programming world and the PC world came into my life. Like, Abraham, now you are going to program. And at that moment, I have to decide what can I do? I go to the chemistry path or I go to the programming path. And I took the chemistry path. And I think I've been always wrong about the decision. Or this is what I feel, because I always want to, even if I have studied chemistry, I have always tried to program something studying chemistry. Then I make a program where I can do this, this, and this. And then, okay. So we have this old feeling that I have studied something that I didn't want it. And my real passion is programming and everything. And then somehow I start to feel that I need to go back to the programming part. And then I start with Arduino. Well, I like it because I can program and I can see what I program, because sometimes when I have programmed in the past, it was like, okay, I made a program in a computer that no one is going to see. Pre-internet, pre-internet, it was like, okay, program is quite boring because no one is going to see it. So I say, I'm going to make Arduino and I'm going to make things that people can play with it. And then like all in my life, it started to become an obsession. Like I have to make a circuit about this to watch the weather, or another circuit to make a robot that can move and follow a line. And then I started like having unfinished project continuously. Okay. Then my wife came and said, Ram, what are you doing with all these cables and all these things? Because what are the purpose of doing all these things? I think there's no purpose to doing this. It's just doing it. Okay. And then I think what kind of things you can do that has no purpose, but you can still playing with circuits. And then I say, art. In art, you can make things. They don't have to have a purpose. Art is art. You only express yourself, but there is no purpose behind it. They don't have to work or to be robust. And then I say, why don't I start making electrical circuits, program them, this is my passion, and combine everything in an artwork. And then in my lab, one day, the lab technician came and said, Bram, I was trying the new conductive material that we were applying on copper, and it's starting to work like very bad. You never should use this. It's like the worst product we have made in the company. And then it said, wait. You have take this out of the oven, this copper? Yes. The copper was like gold. And I said, no, it's impossible. This thing is not a failure. This is something. And then I take it to home. And then I say, okay, it seems that when you hit copper, you can make it gold. If I can make a circuit when I use copper, but then I give it color with an oven at home, it's like crazy. And then I can make like mosaics, and also I can put the circuits on it because it's copper. I can solder it. I can make the complete circuit. Every tile, it's part of the circuit. Every tile is soldered to the other tile.
Behind you, I can see hanging up on the wall is a mosaic piece that is interconnected copper tiles and circuitry. Can you describe this piece?
What you have is a system with two speakers, sound amplifier, Yamaha chip, and several LEDs, all connected to a IR thermometer that can sense when a person is coming and activate when the person is coming. So when a person is trying to interact with the artwork senses the person, feel that there's someone there, and start to make like a sequence of drums that are like a heartbeat. Pum pum, pum pum, pum pum. And then all these circuits, it's in these inner black holes. There you have the microcontrollers and the microchips, and all the metallic tessellation made of squares, hexagons, and triangles. All this tessellation are the connection between the microcontrollers.
There are multiple colors. There's blues, greens, there's some copperish tones, and I would say as far as individual mosaic elements, there's several hundred of them, right? All interconnected.
Yes.
And the size of it would be in meters, like 1.5 meters?
Yes, 1.5 meters, 80 centimeters, 80 centimeters by 1.5 meters. I had the idea to fill a space with similar parts. When you have the tessella or the tiles, this is exactly the idea. You have to fill one space using the same parts.
What was the first thing that you've ever soldered?
I think I started with the Arduino kits. Maybe one of these using LEDs or any of these things, I guess.
Where did the name Kasser Synths come from?
My name is Abraham and my surname is Casas. My wife is called Maria and her surname is Cerro. Casas is houses in English and Cerro is hill or something like that in English, small mountain. So when you try to say Cerro in German, is Cerro. The German people say something like Cerro, and the German people never write Casas, my surname, with a C. They always write it with a K. So when you take the Casas and the Cerro part of me and my wife, Cas, Cer, is our surnames. When I started with this obsession, I became a little bit lost, like always. My wife came again and said, Abraham, the artworks are very nice, but they are hanging around here at home. You have like 12 or 15. What are we going to do with them? Are you going to make any expo or something? What's the idea? It's nice, but you can do it better, or we can do it better. And then at that point, we started to make together the synthesizer idea.
So your wife is part of the company. You do the circuit design, and what does she do?
She's more like the visual and design part. It's like my countermate, you know. I'm crazy, obsessive. She's the most, everything has to do it in that way, in that way.
Does she design your website and your manuals?
No, in that case, it's more together, she and I. And the website, we have also part of them outsourced, but the pictures are from her. So she's a quite good photographer. She loves video game, but she was never so obsessed at video games like me. But there are some video games that she can really destroy me. Yes. Snow Bros is like, I have nothing to do. Puzzle Bubble, I have nothing to do against her. But only in these two. Mortal Kombat is like, she has nothing to do. She follows my craziness, and she is like a really nice companion in my craziness, in my obsessions. She get never like afraid or something. She's like, okay, you are crazy. Okay, nothing else. Let's continue.
Are you both doing Kasser Synths full time?
I have a day job and it's taking a lot of time out of me. When I started with Maria Kasser Synths in 2019, 2018, I quit my day job in Germany to come back to Spain. And somehow we have the romantic idea to live only with the synthesizers. This was great year. Wonderful. I mean, I spent the whole day with her discussing about the synthesizers, how to do it in that way, that way. But I mean, the COVID-19 came. We had a daughter on the, found a job, and then I started working on this job, and she continued at home with the synthesizers. My hobby Sundays afternoon is to prepare the synthesizer for the week. I she take care of all everything, so of the management, social network, marketing, or discussing with me. Oh, Abraham, we have to do this, or we have to do this.
Looking at one of your pre-built ones, I own the Kasser Arcade, and I'm going to describe it for people that maybe are not familiar with it, but it's a smaller box, and the top is a piece of transparent, kind of grayish plexiglass that you can see through. It has a touchpad keyboard on the bottom, a full-size SD card for saving your and loading patches, and on the back there's a full-size 5-pin MIDI in, a volume and on-off switch, which is kind of rare on small synths, and then a full-size USB input for powering the unit, and then an audio out. On the face of it, most of your controls are done through two large dials that are also clickable encoders. And I think the most kind of standout feature of this series, which there are 3 different in this series of synths, is the fact that there are 4 screens inside, and they all show it's a 4-operator FM synth. So this is a kind of a novel and fast way to see what's happening in each of the operators or carriers, however you have it configured with your algorithm. And that takes a bit to wrap your head around the navigation, but I have never seen a device with 4 screens, and I don't know if there'll be too many more devices with 4 screens, but I remember coming across it years ago thinking, I need to have this just because it has 4 screens, because in a time where there are so many ways to get information to the user of a device, some people go screenless, but you're just like, I'm not going screenless. I'm going to go to 4 screens, and I just think it's kind of incredible to use. It's almost like an alien device that displays whatever page you're on. It can show envelopes or aspects of modulation and things like that. And it's really well thought out, and you really have to have both hands going, because one side is kind of driving you in one direction, and then the other side is kind of driving into the details. And but once you've made that connection, it's pretty fast, and it sounds good. The whole device feels very solid. The side panels are made out of PCBs that are interlocked together, and the bottom panel also looks like another PCB. But the design is great. I think it must have taken you a while to figure out how all this comes together. But you also sell all 3 models as DIY kits, which is very tempting. I want to say they're wider.
Yes. They're wider. I mean, the rule design for the do-it-yourself was that the parts are only on one side of the PCB. I started with the assembly ones, but people start to ask me, "Oh, can you sell it? But I want to solder by myself." But if you open the assembly one, you realize that there is a lot of components that are soldered one on the back on the others. I know because I have designed it and I have soldered like hundreds of them, but you have to follow some order. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible, because one of the soldered joints are covered, then you cannot reach them anymore, then it's impossible. Then I said, no, if I make a do-it-yourself version, I mean, it has to be designed from the beginning to be do-it-yourself. Otherwise, it's going to be very frustrating. I think the idea was that they really wanted to enjoy to solder them.
How long did it take you to design the DIY version?
Switch from the assembly to the do-it-yourself version was like an afternoon.
Wow.
I need this reorganization very fast. Let's say I can move this part here, then it's going to be wider, but it's okay because also the form is nice. if I put this here, oh, it looks nice. It looks very nice. My wife is always telling to me, Abraham, when you made something, it looks very easy, but it's never like that. And it takes your time and it's really a lot of work.
How did you decide to use 4 screens? Where did that design decision come from?
It was very clear from the beginning. The operators are important. How many operators do we have in these chips? 4. You have to have 4 OLED screens. I love the OLED screens. I love the crispy blue color of them. I wanted to have as much as possible of them. If there were 16 operator, Kasser Synths would produce the synths with 16 OLED screens.
Now, wait. I'm imagining, let's get a little into the guts here. Are they I2C? Like, are you giving each one a different I2C address and that's sending display updates to each one?
At the beginning, they were I2C, and then I have an I2C divider, multiplexer. But then I realized that the I2C was very slow, very, very slow. I think until 2020, all the Kasser Synths are the slow version because they have this I2C. And then I switched to SPI.
Mm-hmm.
And SPI is like, you can see the changes very fast.
How many prototypes or iterations did you go through?
I made a lot. I always try to make it faster or easier to build. This obsession is always like, no, but if I use this kind of parts with less pins, then I reduce the time in soldering from this to this. Even if I make it at home, I'm always trying to make it more optimum all the time. Like also more robust. Like imagine I have to change one part because I don't have it anymore because it's not sold anymore. Then I'm trying to find combination that make me easy to change from one part to the other. And always with a lot of back compatibility. I mean, in fact, if you take one of the 2019 first prototypes, you can put the last firmware in them, even if I have changed like a lot of things.
Did you encounter any noise when designing your synths around vintage chips?
In the Genesis version, they have the DAC, the digital to analog converter, integrated in the chip. It's like very, very dirty. The arcade version is the cleanest sound. When there are people asking me about the Genesis sound, I always say, don't you mind if you don't have the YM2612? Because otherwise, I would prefer to recommend you the arcade version. I mean, you have 8 channels instead of the 6 of the Genesis, and it's more clean. It's quite close to noise-free.
In my experience powering synths from USB, the power adapter itself can make a huge difference. And it's not like these are audiophile sources either. They're designed for less than critical listening conditions like arcade or a video game console.
It's also part of the charm of these chips. Somehow gritty sound, somehow low-fi noise. I like it. I mean, I like it. Otherwise, you just go digital, completely digital, and then you can forget about all these things.
If someone wants noise-free, they just go to emulation because noise is inherent in some of these chips. It's unavoidable. Are you having any difficulty sourcing your vintage chips?
Yes, right now, yes. I have like one, let's say, provider that it's never faking us. But all this material, maybe somehow in the past, let's say beginning of the 2000s, maybe they were coming from, in this case, I'm talking about the Genesis on arcade, okay? Because Blaster, you are still getting them with a blister in original cases. But arcade and Genesis with the YM2612, YM3438, and the YM2151, they are coming from recycling. I mean, all stock, it's disappeared. Yamaha stopped producing them in the 90s. When I started with this, it was crazy. You can buy like $1 one of these chips. Now you are buying them for, I don't know, $25, $30 every chips. You see that there is a huge increase. Of course, we are not the only ones, so we have inspired each other. And then this big wave, we are somehow making similar things in our way. The suppliers, they don't have too much material. All people want to have this kind of chips. They want to build like 8-bit computers and use this kind of sound chips. Everyone wants to use them. No one is producing them. It's going to be hard. I think the solution in the future is going to have that you have to play with emulation. You have to play with FPGA solutions.
Tell me a little bit about each of the models that you sell.
We try to bring back feelings of the video game sounds. First of all was the Genesis, the Sega Mega Drive, my obsession. So in fact, I bought a Sega Mega Drive. I opened it, looked inside and said, yes, there was an YM3612 inside. The other one are the arcade version. In fact, these are the chips that were used in the Capcom boards and in other several boards of the arcades in the late 80s, beginning of 90s. It's quite similar.
When I first got it, it reminded me of when I went to the arcade all the time. And I don't know, in Spain, did they have what they call here are tabletop arcade games? So instead of a freestanding cabinet, you would sit down. Like, this looks like an old tabletop video game to me. You know, it has that aesthetic.
We all wanted to have like this aesthetic, that you have this tabletop, you can play at home, you have a small computer or small pocket operators, game watch. We were trying to find these small toys that you can play with them all around. And finally, the blaster is the homage to the sound blaster, to the PCs of the 90s. But also I spent a lot of time in the arcades. I spend a lot of time in my computer at home and spend a lot of time with my console at home. So in fact, the three are like the reflection on where I have spent time hearing or listening to video game music in a Mega Drive, Genesis, in arcade, or in the computer. And the blaster is the computer feeling. You know, the Doom. Heretic. Monkey Island. And the arcade is, I don't know, the Golden Eggs, the Alter Beast, the Outrun. All these musical sounds. What I like of them is that the menus are different. Even if you have the same FM synthesis with 4 operators, you don't have the same options. In the menu of the chips, what you can do with them is different. In the Genesis, for example, you can play with the envelopes and you can make like cycling envelopes, but you cannot do it in the arcade and you cannot do it in the blaster.
So when you're designing these things and you're getting feedback from customers, what kind of gear do you test with?
We have like some test boards, like they are empty of components and you have only to put 10 components there and then test it. We test every part. We take care that all the parts are working, and then when we solder, everything is working. We test it again with MIDIs, with SD cards, with the sound, through a speaker and everything. So we make sure that everything is working. And for development, this is like chaos. I start from breadboards, semi-assembled PCBs, but I'm at the end making a lot of drill to make new cables, new connection, new soldering, like Frankenstein's, you know? I mean, because you order one PCB, but then you realize, maybe I have to put this, and this. Then you solder everything on top. But this, and then you solder more on top. This is for development, let's say. I order PCBs with the design. I test them. And then I have like a lot of, for the water, you know, when you have to put your water glass on the table.
We call it a coaster.
Yeah, coaster. I have like 100 of them.
Yeah, I've got some of those around for sure.
You know what I mean, right? I started hating the breadboards for making development because they are quite noisy.
Yeah.
You never know if only one of the 80 cable it's not working, and then everything is not working, and you don't know why, and then you are like crazy trying to find it. Yeah, I prefer to spend money on PCBs, and you also have this kind of this like with a lot of holes, then you can put the material there, and then it's very I love them.
We call it
I hate breadboards.
perf board, I think is what it's called here.
Exactly, perf boards. Exactly.
Are there any firmware updates on the way?
I made like a lot of improvement in the 2019 2020. The customer are great people because they want to have your item with heart, with love. They spend a lot of time playing with it. Some of them, they just came to me with a lot of improvement list. And I was like crying. Do you like it? And then you have also some improvements. I think in the 1920, with 2, 3, 4 people, yes, sir, I will do it. It was like my boss. I will do it. I mean, because you are thinking on this improvement because you want really to improve this thing. Not because you are like, I don't like that. No, no, no. You really want to improve it. And say like, thank you very much. And then I started to make a lot of iteration. I think from version 1 to version 1.6 was like a crazy iterations. I mean, this is when I came with this idea of the firmware update. I made a lot of changes. The people have to have access to this. And I think somehow between the 1.6 and the version 2 or 1.98 that they have in one of the arcades, they are more like stabilization and trying to harmonize the blaster with the Genesis and the arcade. So the code below is the same. And in 2021, we had 2 new members on the family. One was my daughter Alba, and the other was the blaster. They were born at the same, almost on the same day. And somehow Maria and we stopped in creating new things. The ideas are still there, but with my daughter, I just put a little bit less pressure on this. I had a lot of idea. In the meantime, I have testing with like new prototypes. I wanted to make like a sequencer with 64 touch buttons.
Wow. I thought you were going to say 64 screens.
Well, somehow, let's say with 64 pixels. The touch button were also pixels. Like a big screen. So, but this idea, I had to stop it. I started learning artificial intelligence. I made a master degree in the university. I love programming and I love from the beginning. And when all this AI, let's say bubble or wave or whatever you want to call it, started, I wanted to be there in the beginning. So when Alba was born, I also started to think about this formation to enter in the AI and everything. All the time thinking how to put the LLMs in combination with the synthesizers and in combination with music generation and having all in a small synthesizer. It's a very big idea. Today it's quite difficult to make something interesting right now. But I'm thinking on it.
So it sounds like a future device would break with the tradition of the first 3. Probably not a Yamaha sound chip, something more in a sequencer.
Let's say the future device for Kasser Synths would be the DAP PSG. Instead of the DAFM, DAP PSG. PSG is the pulse generated. You have it in the Sega Genesis. You have it 2 chips. One is the Yamaha chip, and the other is these pulse chips like the Texas Instruments SN666 489. You have 3 square waves and 1 noise channel. And this is the sound of the Master System, my really first console for me, or what makes a lot of impression in my heart at the beginning.
I think you kind of hinted at this on Instagram.
Yeah, this is the thing. I want to use 2 of these chips. Right now, I have only 1 screen. Maybe I will keep 1 big screen this time. I love this big screen, and I'm going to, it's a different series. It's not an DAFM anymore. Somehow, like the evolution of the DAFM is going to be in the DAP PSG.
What microcontroller are you using?
This is the STM32F401.
And what are you using in the original DAFM synths?
40% of the MCU in the DAFM are the F103, and 40%, the more recent, are the F401.
Are you coding in the Arduino environment, or what do you use to code?
I started in Arduino, but then I changed to Visual Studio Code with the Platformio.
Circling back to AI, do you think you'll use that in your workflow at all?
I mentioned to you that I stopped my heavy workload when Alba was born in 2021. Then ChatGPT 2022, November 2022, changed our lives. And I have used it for programming. I think it's insane. I have now like a lot of high level design and I bring it to the prototype like in minutes. But I have not used it still with the synthesizers things. I was very like, I want to do it. I want to do it because I have this idea. If the workflow is fast, it's like, okay, come on, come on. I have this idea where I can make this animation here, this animation here. So I'm very, 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 very encouraged to start making things with the synthesizer because in all the places where I have used it, I have done things like draw in a serviette, in a tissue, for cleaning when you are eating. How is the
I don't know.
deep in this you have to clean your mouth and everything.
Oh, a napkin.
Write something or draw something in your napkin and then make a photo, go to ChatGPT, 10 minutes, you have a functional website. And it was like, oh, this is crazy because if I can imagine so fast, I can iterate really fast. And I can have a lot of ideas, test them on the go, and make a lot of match improvements. So I'm very happy to have these tools right now. I mean, we all are going to take a lot of advantage of this. But also, I just leave behind my blog in the website with one idea of applying data science to the presets because I arrived in a big database of video game music. When you have the original, let's say, register or addresses. So somehow, when you look at the arcade, for example, you have the presets that are coming from the video games, right? So my idea is to make an online tool when you can define your own presets based on similar presets of similar composers. When you have like, I want presets like Yuzo Zero. Okay, then you have to do this, and all these variations. It's a crazy idea I also want to have. If you look at the combinations, they are finite. After learning all about these AI things, that they are somehow in the multidimensional space of the presets, they are somehow clustered. Yuzo Zero with another composer in USA, they are having somehow the same kind of presets, and maybe they are all having the same origin because they use a similar preset from another composer. I really want to dig into this thing, make some kind of curated list and bring some light.
I think the Japanese composers on some of those old Master System games were just way more comfortable in FM synthesis. Some people just can't grasp the complexities of the interactions between carriers and modulators and all of the different algorithms. It's not like subtractive synthesis that's more direct or easier to understand. FM synthesis just kind of feels like a bunch of math.
It's a very nice story about the FM synthesis because it was developed in Stanford University by Jack Chowning. And then Yamaha came. Well, the story of Chowning also a very nice story to tell because he also was a man who wanted to make music out of the computers. And then he realized that, suddenly you connect the frequency of a wave to modulate the frequency of another wave. And then suddenly you multiply you have like a new timbres, new harmonics, new things. And it's like, that's magic. So imagine you are in the 60s and then you have played around with analog synthesis, that is very nice. It's completely, I think it's much easier, much more human. And then you realized you play around with the creations and then you find like, wow, I have created new sounds. I have created the same sounds that resemble instruments, but then I can also create new sounds. Being in these years was also to be nice. It's like being in the AI years now.
Did you want to say anything to other makers or people interested in synth making out there?
I think in this world, I have found it by chance. I was not looking for it, but I realized that I have fulfilled several dreams with it. That you can make something in the search of making something that you can love. You can make a lot of people happy, and this makes you a even happier. I could say, I will bet that all the people that you are interviewing, I think they are here because of the joy of this. At the end of the day, I make a lot of things, and I have always the feeling that are things that are going to find the final place in a forgotten drawer in someone's table. And when you make these kind of things, I'm with my daughter and I say, touch it. This is going to go to California, or this is going to go to Japan, or this is going to Germany. So like, really? Really that? Yes, yes. And you feel that you are part of something bigger than you. And this is something that is reachable. So I think that always finding your passion or making something that you are going to enjoy, there will be someone in the world that's going to enjoy it with your passion also.
Thanks to Arman from Kasser Synths for spending some time with me on the show. And thank you for listening. Links to all of Kasser Synths' relevant social media, shop, and more are located in the description of this episode.